Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for the webinar, which is going to be all about creating an effective B2B social media strategy. Before I get started with the housekeeping, it's always nice for us to know where the audience is joining us from. So if you can use the Q&A box, please say hi and let us know where it is you're tuning in from this morning or afternoon. Let's see what comes in today. Or if nothing comes in. Macclesfield, Frankie, there's someone who's tuning in from where you're from.
That's me.
Very nice.
Cool. Florida,
Canada, Florida.
London, Ontario, Oregon, Delaware. Oh, this is always a great bit because you can see that people are coming from all over the world. It's great to feel connected.
That's good to see. Sorry, you're in Bolton. I'm joining from Manchester today, so great to have everyone with us. I have a few quick notes about how to get the most out of the session. We are recording today, so if you miss anything, then don't worry. We will be sending the recording out in the next 24 hours. So you can catch up or share it with any colleagues who couldn't be here today. We want you to have as useful a session as possible. So if you do have any questions, then please pop them in the Q&A box at any time, and we will try our best to answer as many as we can. We, of course, want to know your thoughts and feedback as well. So please participate in the polls, check out and download the additional resources in the handout section. And at the end, if you could kindly take 30 seconds to share your feedback. We want to make these webinars as useful as possible, so please do share your thoughts. Finally, if there are any technical issues, then you can usually resolve these by refreshing the browser. But if that doesn't work, just send a message to us and we'll help you get back up and running as quickly as possible. Now, today's session, like the last webinar, if you were here for our webinar on blogging, is going to be split into 3 mini presentations and 2 Q&As. So firstly, I'm delighted that we're joined by Sarah, our in-house graphic design and social media exec. Sarah's been creating some really nice social content for a number of exciting brands in both B2C and B2B. And she's going to be sharing some ideas for creating social media content today. Sarah, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad.
You ready?
Not bad. Yes, absolutely.
Good. And joining us again is our head of marketing, Frankie, who's been helping organizations better market their science for nearly 10 years now. And will be talking to us today about the importance of building a LinkedIn profile that enhances your personal brand. Frankie, you looking forward to today?
Yeah, absolutely. Just great to see in the comments where people are from all across the pond in Europe. Even Sheridan Sauer from Munich has managed to make it. And apologies on behalf of all of Britain for last night's result.
Not all of Britain. I'm not sure the Scottish care that much,
but there's certainly a big sense of smugness across the England anyway after the Euro 2021 result now.
But I'm sure by the next tournament you'll get your revenge, so I wouldn't worry too much. Yeah. And then after our first Q&A, so Sarah and Frankie will give a short presentation, then we'll have our first Q&A. Then after that, I'll be sharing a few thoughts and ideas for reaching your prospects using LinkedIn advertising. And I'll be sharing some experiences to help you better optimize campaign performance. As a small thank you for everyone who's attending live today, we will be sending out some free T-shirts, which have been beautifully modeled by various members of our staff on this picture here. But more details about that later on, so do stay tuned and we'll reveal how you can claim your free T-shirt. The focus today is on B2B, so we'll be referencing LinkedIn regularly, but a lot of what we're talking about can be applied to other social networks as well. The goal is simple as ever, and that is to share ideas and experiences with fellow marketers like yourselves and to get you thinking about at least one area of your current social media marketing. And hopefully we're going to be able to do that in the next 50 minutes or so. We would love this to be a two-way dialogue, so please do share your thoughts and questions with us. And with that in mind, Frankie, if you wouldn't mind launching this first poll. We're just going to quickly ask roughly how many of people within your organization are on either LinkedIn or Twitter and using them for business-related purposes. So,
yeah, should we launch now?
Lovely. So we'll discuss that a little bit more later on. And while people are answering that, sorry, I just wanted to quickly tackle a question that we had during the registration process. So we asked how frequently do you post on social media, and we can see the results here going from left to right to 2 to 3 times per month, weekly, 2 to 3 times per week, daily, and 2+ times per day. So 2 to 3 times per week was the majority, and that seems pretty standard based on the conversations we have with clients. Sarah, what do you think? Is there a general rule about how often people should be posting on social media?
No, it's a great question. I would say not necessarily. We'll touch on that a bit later. It's more about what you can consistently and realistically commit to post. But there's no golden rule for any platform at the moment.
Perfect.
All right. And with that, before we start, I wanted to share a few tips and practices that have helped me over my career in social. So first and foremost, plan your content. This, you can see, is the content planner that we use at ASO Network, and it will be available in the handout section. Ideally, you should plan about a month of content in advance. It does sound like quite a lot of work, but it ensures you post a variety of media, you avoid content fatigue, that you have content planned for important days, such as company announcements or product launches, and it ensures you don't run out of content, which is important and ties it to my next tip. And what we talk about, consistency is key. There's no ideal frequency of post for any platform. There's just guidelines like LinkedIn that suggest that you should post once per business day. But I have noticed, however, that these platforms will reward consistency over frequency. So it's better to commit to a few posts a week rather than posting once a day for a month and then burning out, because your audience will grow accustomed to this frequency as well. So it's not a good idea to change it. Moving on to the next tip, leverage world days or news. We have a calendar in ASO Network, you can see there, where we can see the upcoming world days and check if we have any content or we can prepare any content to post on that day. Because if you share with the appropriate hashtags, there's an opportunity there to reach an audience that's already interested in the topic. And here we can see an example of news jacking. This was back when Elon Musk announced Tesla won't be accepting payments in Bitcoins anymore because of environmental issues, and the stock market collapsed and everybody was talking about it. I shared this post from ASO Cleantech discussing the environmental issues behind all crypto, and it got 2K views in a day just because it was a topic of the day and everybody was talking about it. And my last tip, know your audience and when they are most active. Are you trying to reach audience overseas? Are they active on social media during lunch breaks or evenings, weekends? It will depend a lot on your company and who you're trying to reach. Also take into consideration the post lifespan. Instagram is only about 48 hours, I believe, while on LinkedIn, you get shown posts from up to 3 weeks or even a month. So take that into consideration when planning as well. So what do you need to start on social media? First, content planner world days calendar. We've seen it before. You need a strategy. If this is just a vague overall tone of how your brand speaks, what tone are you going to use, frequency, what can you realistically, I keep repeating the word realistically, commit to it. Visual style, is it in line with your brand, etc. You need a phone or a camera. If you have access to any professional camera, that's great. But nowadays, most phones cameras will do a good enough of a job. Software, in ASO Network, I use Adobe Creative Suite just because you can create anything that you can think of. I understand most marketers are very often time-starved, so using apps like Canva or Magisto, well now Vimeo, it helps a lot streamline the process and save time, and they still do a pretty good job. So let's start with the basics. There are tons of different types of content that you can post on social media. Here are a few examples. Educational, any questions you can answer with about your products. Company culture, people love to see the faces behind the brand. We have events. Have you gone to any event or virtual event lately that you can post? On site with a client, are you working on any project that you're excited to share? We have products. Again, nothing wrong with just posting a picture about your product or a promotion about any content that you have created, but always try to offer added value with every post. There are many dimensions to a product or a services, and this is especially true in science, healthcare, and engineering. Posting about how to use your product, aftercare, as I said, solving questions, etc. are great ways to get started on social. Try avoiding posting repetitive posts about the same topic or the same type of content, or just product specs, that kind of thing. Try and mix it up with videos, animations, testimonials, anything you can think of. We'll see some ideas in the next slides. And lastly, avoid sounding too much like a brand. After all, social media networks are a way for humans to connect with another human. So nothing wrong with offering that human touch. So next, we have new types of content. Social media is the fastest growing marketing channel. Keeping up with the platforms is essential, or you can let other people doing it for you by subscribing to marketing newsletters, following marketers on social media, reading blogs. It's a great way just to keep up. In this environment, especially on social media, where there's so many options and things to try, I can try 10 new things and observe that only a couple of them do very well. So here are my 2 favorites at the moment. Again, this can change in a matter of a year, but at the moment, these are really great. So first, we have TikTok or Instagram Reels, etc. Every platform has its own name. They're these short 30-second videos, generally with faces and explaining a topic or giving tips. Every platform right now is trying to compete with TikTok and pushing their own version. This results in extra reach. It will get shown to more people. Plus, the audience just loves them because they're attention grabbing, they're relatable, and doesn't really require more than a few seconds of the time. So here's an example of one of our own. Our friend Danny here and the team made this quick video.
If you're involved in the creation or management of your blog and you work within science, engineering, or healthcare,
Great stuff,
you
Danny.
should find the next Asian Network webinar really useful. I'm going to be joined by Benedette, who will be talking us through her process of writing scientific articles. Ben, who will be sharing tips for best SEO blog writing, and Emily, who will discuss her process of managing scientific websites. Registration details are in the link. Thank you for that, Sarah.
Very welcome. So this apparently little thing got 2K views in just a couple of hours as soon as I posted it. So it reached a lot of people and it was just nice and easy to watch. And my second favorite, GIFs, that in my opinion, they are really underrated at the moment. There's just 2-3 seconds looped animation. We distribute ours through Giphy, which is basically a search engine for GIFs. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook Stories, and on Microsoft Teams. You can give it a go and type ASO Network or Marketing Science and will pop up. They work really well for brand awareness. For example, we open our brand accounts. These are the GIFs that you can see. We opened our brand's accounts 2 months ago, and we have 500,000 views and shares. All these GIFs, bear in mind, they have our logo, they have our branding. This just makes sure we stay on top of mind. They're really great. And last but not least, another way you can do on social media is repurposing content. I'm sure most of us have spent valuable time and resources producing fantastic big pieces of content, just waiting to be repurposed for social media. Just chop that big raw content up and create social media trailers or even standalone pieces that will hook your audience and entice them to commit a longer portion of the time watching your webinar or reading your white paper. There's plenty of options. You can create graphics from blogs. You can create a little video with a little sound wave from a podcast, short videos from interviews or webinars, charts and visual data from ebooks. The possibilities are endless. It's great content that's already created. It only requires a little bit of formatting and optimization for social. You can adapt this content to any platform and keep reusing them. Let's say you take a webinar and you create 6 really hooking, really attention-grabbing pieces of content. You can keep posting them, weaving them into different narratives, and they all will link back to that bigger piece of content. If there's a World Day comment that's related to a white paper you published or a podcast, you can then create a couple of snippets or graphics and draw more attention to it whilst putting great content out in social media and growing the account, which is killing 2 birds with one stone. And as an example, we have a snippet I made for World Wine Day. Brooker had a fantastic podcast about wine authenticity, so I created this little snippet to promote on that day, and that got lots of extra attention.
Right. Well, let me repeat that simple phrase that many of the listeners will have heard, but One can make wine with all art and no science. One can make wine with all science and no art. But the best wine involves a combination of those two things. So yes, we hope that we satisfy the science side of that equation by delivering the data that clients need to help support their artistic efforts on the winemaking side. I like the word craft better. Winemaking is a craft, whether it's done on a very small scale or it's done on an enormous scale. Still, it's a craft. People doing magic, taking those grapes from the vineyard and turning them into something that can endure and even improve in the bottle over a period of decades.
I love his voice.
It was great, right?
I'm thirsty now. I'm ready for a nice red.
Indeed. Right. So here are my 3 key takeaways. First, provide extra value with each post. There's nothing wrong with posting about your product or your service. Just try to think a bit more out of the box and try and solve questions and provide extra value with it. Don't be afraid of stepping out of your comfort zone, like our friend Danny did here. Even if it doesn't work, you've learned something. And third and last, you're probably sitting right now on a lot of content that can be repurposed for social media. And in my opinion, is the best way to start because the content is already there. So hopefully you're really already thinking of a few ways you can apply this to your networks, or at least it's something to think about. And now I will pass it over to my colleague, Frank.
Yeah, brilliant. Have we got time for a quick Q&A? There's a couple of questions just come in, but before we get to those, Sarah, I have to say I was really impressed with the results that you've been able to get on Giphy, the search engine for GIFs. So yeah, and amazed that now if you type in AZO Network into your team's GIF, you can pull up all sorts of cool little office sort of vibe, like teamwork GIFs that Danny and myself seem to star in quite well. So we get to see you on a GIF. But my question for you is how many hashtags do you put against like a piece of content, a GIF piece of content? What's your rule and what's your thinking there?
Giphy only allows a maximum of 20. But my recommendation for GIFs is just as many as you can. That like any other hashtags, you're going to compete with other people. So try and get at least 2 or 3 that are very niche. Even if it's just the name of your company is something very recognizable, so you can pull the GIFs up easily. And then all the other tags it's like SEO, just all the other keywords that you want to rank with, and then they will come up over time.
Yeah, and I take it the kind of the industries, the science, engineering, healthcare industries that we work in are quite unsaturated right now. It's basically a land grab.
Yeah, there's a great opportunity there.
Yeah, fascinating. So yeah, a couple of one for Danny there. A question here: what program did you use to make this little video, Danny?
So I didn't create the video. I was merely the talents behind the video. So sorry, I can't remember what the program's called.
It was me. I used Adobe Premiere Pro, but you can also use Veed, which is an online app, and it does a great job, and it's quite easy and fast to get it done. So yeah, Veed. It's VEED.
Yeah. And the next one, how do you manage the extra effort, necessary but extra, to get all the alt tags and video captions in place? Do you know of a good workflow to consistently do this? So yeah, I would say it is necessary. It is extra, but it is necessary because it's your content's going to get optimized and found by search engines. Who's best to answer that one?
I can.
Sarah, yeah.
Oh, sorry. It depends on who works on it, because I have found that I might work in a different way that Danny does, so we have different workflows. But again, you can try and streamline using all these apps. Veed does auto captions. You're gonna have to tweak it a little bit, or you can send it to Ref, and they can pull up the CC the captions for you. It just depends on how you work and what works for you. But there are ways, and there are online apps to streamline the process a bit more.
Yeah, and we tend to tie everything together with project management software in Trello, so that everything's in one place.
Exactly.
That's I find with any marketing, really, that's half the battle, is just making sure that everybody's on the same page, on the same workflow, and people know where stuff is, because you've got so many projects going on concurrently. It can be so easy to get overwhelmed with all the different parts and constituent bits to each project. Cool. Raquel has asked, struggling to figure out how I can use TikTok, for example. In the engineering field, it's hard to turn complex content into short and fun videos. Any insights on this?
You can try visuals as well. Don't get discouraged because there's a TikTok for anything. I am on mushroom TikTok. There's for anything you can think of. There's a talk for it. Try and I'm thinking maybe add some visuals, add some drawings or even animations. So you talking over something, and you can again do parts. TikTok gives you now the possibility of create a series, so you can just divide into little series as well.
Yeah, and I think the key there is experimenting.
Yeah.
Try 10 things, and then double down on the 2 or 3 things that really do kick off. And yeah, you can't be afraid to try something.
Yeah, and if your audience isn't on TikTok, then I was saying before, that reel that we created, we used on Instagram, didn't we? So if your audience is there, you can use the same concept with the video, but just distribute it on Instagram instead.
Sounds good. All right, is there one more question from Daria? So what platforms are better suited if you target a scientific audience?
It depends. Hugely, I would say LinkedIn if you target people within the industry, but again, there's a TikTok for it depends on the science of in the particular industry, but it can be anything really. It's just a matter of trying. Maybe Twitter if it's more that you have a lot of articles and people are willing to read. Maybe TikTok if you're willing to put the effort, or you can put the effort on translate it into visuals. The possibilities are really endless. It depends also on your target audience. Depends on the age or the location.
Yeah, I think it's test and iterate and double down on the things that do work.
Any can work. It just depends on how you do it.
Yeah, I saw a great one of a company that did welding. I think they did like micro welding, and they showed you right at a sort of micro molecular level what's going on physically on like a nano scale. And there was something strangely satisfying about seeing 2 metals welded together. It was really good. They had about 10,000 followers, which it doesn't sound like a huge amount, but they're people who are really into the technology and the visuals that they were sharing. So I thought that was a particularly strong campaign. All right. So I think before we move on to the second part, we are looking at how many hours of content do you have. So this is another poll. So we often find that clients are sat on a lot of content. So we're going to ask you, do you have 1 to 2 hours, 6 to 10, or 11 to 20, or 21 plus in terms of webinars, podcasts, interviews, videos? How many hours of content do you have? Because we're trying to get a feel for what you can actually repurpose and re-engineer for social. And just whilst that's coming in, that is coming through. Yeah, we'll come back to those results, and I'll just crack on as I'm starting to look at the second part, which is building a personal brand. We get asked all the time about the importance of building a personal brand, and first and foremost, I always start with why bother doing it. So it's the same as why you'd do an organic SEO strategy, or why you do email campaigns, or why you'd take care of your blog. It's a distribution channel. So between our network of 10 sales teams, 10 sales staff, we've got over 13,000 unique connections. That's industry professionals on LinkedIn. So that's 13,000 people who could be interested in our products and services. So it's a very viable distribution channel, just like your email, just like your blog, or just like organic search. So that's first and foremost why we do it. And if you get the formula right on building your personal brand, then the network effects are there to harvest. So I'm going to take a look at making a positive first impression. First and foremost, I think, Danny, if you've got a video that we can just sort of line up, we're looking at profile pictures and banner images. So this is mine. You can see the profile picture has just morphed into a cover story, and that's a really clever new feature from LinkedIn. So now, beyond just an image and a profile picture, you can you've got a 30-second video where you can talk about your value and how you can help your target market. You can't help but click on it. I've seen a couple online, but not everybody's doing them. So again, it's a great opportunity to distinguish yourself and really highlight your value proposition. But yeah, so the profile picture, I'd say very easy. I've seen lots of people who haven't done this correctly, but you wouldn't walk into a job interview or a client meeting looking scruffy or unprofessional. So the same goes for your profile picture. Make sure it's a professional photograph of you at work, or it's taken professionally, so you look good. And the banner image, I would also, that's the background image, the 120 million plus visitors. That's a huge opportunity to make a great first impression and tell people what you're all about professionally. So you have 3 seconds to make a good first impression. And this, when people come onto my profile, you can see 120 million plus visitors, ASO network across 10 different industry specific sites. You're in no doubt as to what I can help you with. And then you combine that with a descriptive headline, reaching scientists, engineers, and healthcare professionals. So I like to think that if a marketing manager of a science, engineering, or healthcare firm comes onto my profile and they read that and the combination of the images, and they see, oh, they can help me reach scientists, engineers, and healthcare professionals, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer when you think of it like that. Again, instances where we've seen the headline has become, people use it more of a job description rather than a value proposition. You can see Danny and Sarah here have got sharing marketing content for organizations within science, engineering, and healthcare. And Sarah's got helping scientists and engineers share their stories on social. So you can see that works a lot more powerfully than just, social media coordinator or marketing project manager, or if you've got CEO at Acme Industries or sales director. It's not a job title. It's a description and a value proposition as to how you can help your target market. So don't forget, LinkedIn is a search engine and it works on search algorithms. So how do you stand out from the crowd? You might only get that little thumbnail, as you can see from Danny and Sarah there. You'll turn up in a raft of searches amongst a sea of faces. If your target market just sees that you're marketing manager or sales director, then there's no real value proposition and no real compelling reason why I'd click on your profile. But if you sculpt a good combination of profile pic, banner image, and headline, then we can get people onto your profile and they can learn more about you in your About Us section, where you can showcase your value, your featured content. So this is everything that you're about professionally. We want to see websites, links, PDF downloads, presentation, basically anything that will encourage your target market to learn more about you and your personal brand. And then before we move on to posting useful content, I've got some good tips for you over the next few slides. We're going to try and understand the algorithm. So the way LinkedIn works is by showing anything that you post will go to around 5% of your connections. Then it's looking for micro engagement metrics. We're talking like if you're scrolling through and you stop for 3 seconds, that's a tick in the box. If you then click on the next slide, or you scroll through a quick presentation, or you click on images, or even if you do a reaction like a like or any of those engagement metrics, or a share, or even a comment offering some insight and opinion in the comments, these are all the micro engagement metrics that build up to see whether it's going to show your post to more people than the original 5%. So if it performs better than statistically anticipated, it will show it to 10%, then 20%, then 40, 80, 160% of your network. And before you know it, you end up viewing something that a third degree connection of you has commented on or liked. And that's how you can benefit from the network effects. So making it work long term is what we'll look at in terms of, I think there was a question about resources and about all the sort of nitty gritty detail, but you can do that if you're with a bit of planning. So start of every Monday or start of every month, you put together your pieces. If you put together a narrative, a piece of multimedia, and you've already got the network, and you can put that together in a plan, then when it comes to the day of posting, you can automatically put that up without thinking about it. Because all too often, I think we all get to LinkedIn and think, I'm going to post something really profound here, and then you end up trying to start a narrative and you think, oh, that doesn't quite work, or the angle's not quite there. Works a hell of a lot better if you plan all that out in advance at the start of the period, and knowing if it's working. So I'll share with you some success stories here. We're getting 2,000 plus views on quite a few of our posts, and we'll dive into what works and some of the do's and don'ts. So a few things: do use and share interesting multimedia, so MP4s, PDFs. LinkedIn works as an algorithm by keeping people on the platform and selling advertising to industry professionals. There's 750 million people on LinkedIn, so it wants to keep you on the platform. It doesn't want to take all those people off to your webinar or to your blog. So if you can create content that's native, again, it's repurposed content that's native to LinkedIn, then by all means do it, and you'll then reap the benefits in terms of engagement. And make sure that you tag people, companies, hashtag. If you're working with clients, if you're working with events, partners, tag industry bodies in it, tag as many people who are relevantly involved with whatever you're posting about. And then hopefully, that sort of what goes around will come back around. They'll then start sharing it for you. So there was an interesting example that we did for PitCon. I was talking about going to the analytical exhibition over in Chicago or Philadelphia, or it was online this year. But in us posting it and tagging their company name and their individuals in that post, it then got reshared, and it went to around 2,500 people, which was great to see. And finally, just do offer comment or opinion, and try and encourage people to engage with your post, and it feeds the algorithm in that way. A few of the don'ts: don't offer a link, very counterintuitively. But again, LinkedIn makes money from keeping people on the platform. So if you can help that, then the algorithm's going to reward you. So yeah, like I say, original multimedia really ties in nicely with that. Don't just post product content, and I suppose this goes for all marketing. Only 2% of your target market are ready to buy at any one stage. So the other 98% of the time, or the 98% of your market, how are you helping them with their applications, their industries, all of trying to solve their problems and trying to help them and be their friend by providing enough value when they're not in the buying phase. Again, don't be afraid to get it wrong. So copying and pasting from a calendar, which Sarah's going to share, is part of the handouts, where you can, if you do get something wrong, you can always just delete and start again. If say a PDF doesn't upload or a video doesn't render quite properly. And then finally, I'd say do tell a story. So we get taught this from a very young age. In primary school, every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's unbelievably simple, but my best posts have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a real structure to it like that. It can be just 3 lines. We're going to touch on it with my PitCon example in a second. So some of the formats, I suppose this is, again, building on what Sarah said. We were back in the office for the first time the other day, and Sarah's straight out with the camera and she's taking pictures. We don't want to use stock images from Shutterstock or Canva or wherever. We're looking to create our own, especially if we're posting about, working on the ASO Intel project, posting about sharing science stories, how great it is to be back in the office, those kind of events. It really resonates with people. People love to see that we're back in the office, because it's back some semblance of normality that we're getting back to. We've got a customer video shoot coming up next week, and we'll be capturing a load of footage there, not only video but also behind the scenes camera style stuff as well. So, and these are great examples as to back to work, back to the office. People are always struggling for ideas. Behind the scenes, on client visits, after service care, or corporate social responsibility, the feel good bits of CSR that your company might be undertaking as well. So there's always a narrative that you can weave into your multimedia. The carousels, so the PDFs, this was one that I put on LinkedIn. See, nearly 2,500 views. Just looking at sort of how it's going versus how it started. March 2019, We were in Philadelphia, March 2020. We were in Chicago Center, in the McCormick Center in Chicago. And we just told a story through a few pictures. And we were telling a narrative that how we come from Philadelphia to Chicago to then recording a virtual PitCon in our basement. So I was in my basement here running a virtual show. And off the back of this post, I got five pieces of business, or five conversations which went to late stage. And yeah, it was incredibly powerful, just sharing a few of the sharing what we were doing and the nuts and bolts and the process of how it was working was incredibly successful for us. And other ways, we've touched on this as well. We've got examples in the handouts of the repurposing of podcasts, webinars and videos. We're sat on a mountain of content. Actually, now's probably a good time to check in on the poll. Yeah, so we've got a nice spread there of 28% of people have between 6 to 10 hours of content, and then 12% are between 11 and 20, and 23% of people are sat on more than 21 hours of content. So I'd be really interested to see how many of those people are actually being diligent and going back through their content and chopping it up into the really punchy, super sharp, short, salient points. Because you can go through there, and the content that we've got here on screen, the top left one was an interview, a podcast that I did with Chris Walker of Refine Labs, and we just pulled out a 2-minute 35 clip, and we pulled out quite a few of those. The bottom right one wasn't even a podcast. That was almost a sound check that we were doing with Dan and Will. But we got some great content, as is the way when you talk to a couple of audio musicians, guys who work in bands and live and breathe that stuff. And then the bottom left was using NMR as a quantitative tool. That's a minute long, and that's again from the Wine Authenticity food podcast series. And then in the top right, we're looking at pharma applications of collisional cross-section data. We just pulled that from a conversation that Will and Mike Gregg had. But these are all maybe a bit hidden or buried within a much larger piece of content. But then if we go in and chop them up using the Creative Suite, then we can actually get there and create plenty of content to arm the salespeople and arm the customer-facing teams with all the content that they need. So interesting to see that there's a huge amount of content that we're all sat on out there. So just to wrap things up, the time and effort is fully worth investing time, effort, and resources into creating your profile. Even just the banner image, make sure that sort of sits so that your face doesn't sit over and block anything. I think it's 1500 by 400 pixels. Again, all of the social media image sizes are in the handouts. Sarah's very kindly knocked up a few different variations for us, and you can now see we're conveying a lot more visual information whenever you go on an AZO network profile. Similarly, posting interesting multimedia. I think that's a given. I'd say go back through your multimedia and dig out the podcasts, the webinars, the videos, and then chop up the interesting bits or the highlights from within those pieces of content, and ultimately just like at primary school, unbelievably simple, but often neglected. I think we're opening up for another Q&A. Danny?
Yeah, we've got loads of really good questions. A lot about not using links in the posts. But I just wanted to ask about when you said about 13,000 contacts within the sales team. Frankie, you've frozen. Are you still there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You've just frozen, but it's all right. You're not pulling too strange a face, so that's all right. With the sales or getting your other colleagues to share content, to publish content, what can we do, or what can the people listening do to encourage other people in their company to do that?
Yeah, I think if you're a marketing manager who is struggling to encourage your sales team to be more active on LinkedIn, you're definitely not alone. I was speaking to Hal at IGD about this, and countless of the marketing managers see the benefits of LinkedIn. I think you've got to make it easy for them, because they're busy. They've got plenty of other things going on. They've got to hit targets and quotas, etc. So social media, if it becomes too hard, then it's the first thing to fall off the desk. How do you make it easier for them? I think you arm them with the bullets that they can fire on social media. You can even go as far as to creating the narratives for them, because they'll definitely have the networks and they'll definitely have the connections, but trying to get them to post maybe, top of funnel or webinar or ebook content, anything that's not directly product focused. It's that constant sort of long-termism versus short-termism. But whatever you can take off their desk and whatever you can make easy for them, you put together a mini content plan and say, right, over the next month, Mr. Sales Director, I want you posting twice a week. Here are your 8 posts, and here's the schedule. And I've written the most of it for you. Feel free to tweak. I think that's probably the best way to encourage somebody to do that for you.
Yeah. And then there's lots of good questions about links. So the first one that's had the most votes from Jessica is asking about if you're trying to get people to register for an event or a webinar. So is it okay to use links then? I'll just say what we do. So we'll post on our company page, we'll post something about the event with the link involved in that post, and then we'll pin it to the top of the company page. And then Sarah, myself, Frankie, other members of the team will often publish different narratives, but draw people to register on our company page rather than including a link in our posts from our own profiles. We have tried both, but that one seems to work the best. So that's something that people can try. I hope that answers the question.
So I'd always at your company in your post, create a narrative. It's a native LinkedIn post that leads back to your LinkedIn company page, which is where they'll find the link, which is pinned at the top. So it's that sort of trade-off between trying to play the algorithms game versus trying to, I suppose, CRO and not trying to lose people between too many clicks.
Yeah, and then Amber's asked a similar question about if it's appropriate to use links in the comments. Again, we do that fairly often as well. So I think LinkedIn probably will work it out eventually, but it seems to be okay at the moment to do that as a better sort of best practice.
And they are always changing, of course. Like, I think you think you've cracked it, and then it only takes their engineering team a few tweaks to make, and then they've changed the rules again. So you've got to figure it out quite quickly.
Yeah, and then Raquel's asked about the video on your LinkedIn page. Does it work on company pages?
Good question. Not to my knowledge.
No, not at the moment.
No.
It might happen eventually, but just not at the moment. It's just for personal pages.
Yeah, I think it's been introduced as a sort of way of making people more engaged with each other. But I would imagine at some point in the future, it will be available on company pages as well, which will be an exciting time for us to get our thinking hats on. Question from Sue. She's saying, given what you've just stated, that LinkedIn wants to keep users on platform, can we assume that if you use a LinkedIn form rather than providing a URL to your company's form, then you'll get higher engagement? I think the answer is yes, but would love it if you could comment if you have any metrics to support that assumption.
Well, we don't have any metrics off the top of my head. We have done lead gen forms before, so this is talking about paid, right? I think it's talking about paid. It's been a while since we've done lead gen forms, but I would, if I'd always put myself in the shoes of LinkedIn. If you were running a platform, how are you keeping people on the platform? You don't want them to go off elsewhere. So I'd side with you there, Sue, and say yes. That's what I'd be inclined to think, but I can't. Got no evidence to support it. Sorry.
Cool. And then Shirley's just asked about something similar to do with links. If you pull a 2-minute clip from a podcast, how do you drive further engagement without including a link?
Good. So that's a good question. It would have to be maybe linking back to your company page again. That's always a good way of doing it. So linking back to your LinkedIn company page, because it keeps the user on the platform, or offering it in the comments, or if it can just be a brand play. So you want to stay top of mind about for your audience. You got to sort of appreciate that your audience is not that they're not all looking to buy right now, and it might just be that the metric is just get a lot of views on LinkedIn and own that channel, which is often a more tricky one to to justify to senior management, but that is a very worthy engagement metric.
Yeah. It's a bit of a mindset thing as well, because we always think of using all channels possible to drive traffic to our website. But if most people listen to podcasts, so if you do have 4 or 5 snippets of a good podcast and you release them consistently over a period on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, people are going to remember that the next time they're looking for a new podcast. They not necessarily have to include links to the full version all the time. Most people who are scrolling through LinkedIn don't have half an hour to spare to then go listen to the podcast there. So you can play it as a more of a long-term brand awareness play, like Frankie was saying. We have got lots of other good questions, but I'm just a little bit conscious of time. So if we crack on with the next part of the presentation, and then we'll come back to as many questions as we can at the end, but do keep them coming in. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, so Sarah's talked about ideas for creating content. Frankie shared some tips for organic distribution. So I'm now going to talk a little bit about distribution through social advertising. So specifically, I'm going to talk about how you can reach your prospects using LinkedIn ads, but we will very quickly discuss Facebook retargeting at the end. So what we're going to do is, or what we're going to look at is, we're going to focus on building funnels with ads so that you can nurture prospects. And we've got a couple of options to look at today. But before I do go into that, if you are just getting started with advertising or you've never run on social ads before, just draw your attention to the handout section again. There is a whole section of blogs for all different levels of knowledge. So if you are just getting started, then that's a good place to start. So why are LinkedIn ads an effective distribution channel? Well, you can pretty much guarantee that if your target audience is on LinkedIn, then you can get your marketing messages in front of them. And funnels are a good strategy because, as we've said before, 99% of your target audience won't be in a position to buy your product at any given time. So by using the funnel strategy, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, we are able to nurture our target audience and serve them with new ads based on actions that they've taken at different stages of the buying journey. So we're going to look at a couple of funnels here. The first is sort of a traditional lead generation one. So if we have a look at the first part, so tofu, mofu, bofu, for anyone not familiar, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. So at the top, we're looking to build an audience. And we can do that in LinkedIn either by using a list of prospects from within our CRM and uploading that and creating a matched audience, or we can use a cold LinkedIn, or not a cold in, a cold LinkedIn audience with targeting in Campaign Manager. So your LinkedIn objective at this stage is lead generation. We're trying to gather sort of basic contact details, so name, email address, in exchange for a good quality and useful piece of content, such as an ebook or white paper. We'd always suggest that you test creatives. So do run some A/B tests to see which one drives the most downloads, and use the download as the call to action. Then when we move into the middle of the funnel, we're looking to nurture our audiences. So you can create a new matched audience at this stage that lists the names of all the companies that have downloaded your ebook or white paper previously. So we've got a couple of little points here. If you're using companies instead of individuals to create your lists, those who have downloaded your content in the previous stage this will give you a bigger audience and will allow you to target colleagues of the person who downloaded your content. So for an example, if I downloaded an ebook from a company we were interested in, and then that company used Azo Network as their sort of matched list company, then Frankie and Sarah would also see their middle of the funnel ads. And that's useful because more often than not, there's more than one decision maker. So it will allow you to target other team members as well. Another little point at this stage is that the companies that you use for your list now don't have to have come just from LinkedIn. So get into your CRM and see what other channels have led to ebook downloads and include them in your audience for the middle of the funnel. Your objective for the middle of the funnel at this point could be website conversions, such as registering for a webinar. And again, you can test graphics to see which drives the most registrations. Now, as we move down the funnel with each stage here, we're asking for a little bit more of a time commitment. So at the awareness stage, it was 10 seconds. Here's an email, 10 seconds. Here, please give us your email address, and here is your ebook. At the middle of the funnel, it's 10-second registration, but they need to commit 1 hour of their time to attend a live webinar. So we're whittling down to those who are showing genuine interest in what it is that we're offering. And that's what we're trying to do with the funnel here. And hopefully then when we get to the bottom of the funnel, you can create a new company list for leads that have been qualified as sales ready based on the actions they've taken at previous stages. You also have the option to create matched audiences based on website traffic to key pages like your pricing page, your contact page, your basket page if you're selling things via your website. So you have the option to create audiences there as well. Now we're at the bottom of the funnel. Our messaging can be much more direct. So your copy and creative should look to drive website conversions such as booking a demo, speak to sales, free consultation, get a quote, etc. Just a quick note on if you are going to use, if you are going to create audiences based on website traffic, then you'll need to have the LinkedIn Insight tag set up on the page. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's a small bit of code that you can paste to your website. Your developer will be able to do it very, very quickly and very easily, but just be sure to check your privacy policies before adding any pixels to your website. Just a quick reminder there. And then, so what we're doing is when we're moving people through the funnel, you want to be sure that we're including companies that have taken the action at the previous stage, but excluding companies that have already converted. So if I've downloaded your ebook and then gone onto your website later on off LinkedIn and booked a demonstration, you don't want to then be serving me awareness ads in the future. So be sure to exclude people. Again, this is going to take integration with your CRM, a little bit of manipulation of your data to make sure that the company lists that you're creating at each stage don't include people who have already converted. So that's the sort of more traditional lead generation strategy. What we've been trying more of recently is more about creating demand, and it has many of the same principles as the strategy we've just discussed, but it relies much less on the data that we can capture and relies more on the LinkedIn algorithm. So at the top of the funnel, you can use the same audience targeting principles that we mentioned before. So either a list of prospects from your CRM or a cold LinkedIn audience with the targeting capabilities, you can do that again. But in terms of the content, we've been trying a lot of awareness videos at the top of the funnel that highlight sort of key pain points and the problems that we solve at this stage. So we're optimizing for video views. So we're not asking for any contact information like we are doing in the lead gen strategy. We're literally trying to get the video in front of as many people within our target lists as possible at this stage. Once we've done that, then for the middle of the funnel, you can create a matched audience of people that have watched a certain percentage of the video that you've used at the top of the funnel. So 25, 50%, etc. the video. These people have been exposed to your content and have actually taken time and effort to watch a certain percentage of it. The LinkedIn objective is the same as the strategy we discussed before at this point. So looking to drive website traffic, and we're going to use the creative and the copy again to drive traffic to a particular page on our website that provides more high-level content that demands more time of the potential customer. So an on-demand webinar would be a good example here. Demonstration videos that you have on your website of your products, things like that. Having this having these available without having to register or give any contact information again should increase the likelihood of your visitors consuming that content. So again, the first two stages, we're not looking to capture any lead information. We're just trying to drive awareness as much as possible and drive demand for our offering at the bottom of the funnel. So for the bottom, we can now create a matched audience based on the traffic to the webinar page that we've used in the middle of the funnel. And we can ensure that we're not wasting budget by only targeting people who have viewed that page, but then we can also match them with our customer profile. So if somebody who doesn't fit into our ideal customer profile has been on that page, then we can remove them by making sure that our targeting in LinkedIn is very specific. Again, we're looking at website conversion, so booking a demo, speak to sales, get a quote, etc., and use the creative and copy to try and highlight your key benefits, but also stand out from the crowd. You want to stop people from scrolling. So do test your creatives to see which works better and which drives the most results. I mentioned at the start about Facebook. So just very quickly, you can retarget website traffic with Facebook retargeting ads if you have the Facebook pixel set up on your pages. Now, it is much harder to target specific people in Facebook or specific professions unless you're using what's usually a pretty expensive software. So, but Facebook retargeting means that you can hit people with ads who have been on your site. So, a strategy that's worth considering. So, in both of those examples, lead and demand generation, we're following similar principles, but with lead gen, you capture lead information from the start, so it's easier to nurture through other channels, email, sales, SDRs, etc. With demand generation, we're using the LinkedIn retargeting capabilities. So you are less likely to put people off at the top of the funnel or middle of the funnel stage because you're not asking for any contact information. People are becoming a bit more savvy about who they share their email address with. So the benefits of the demand generation strategy is that you're getting your content in front of as many people as possible. You're staying top of mind. People will then relate to you when they're thinking of buying products in the future if your content is good. So that's the difference between the two strategies there. And then very quickly to wrap up, budget. So how much you want to invest will depend on things like lifetime customer value, customer acquisition costs, etc. But like with any advertising, start small, test, and then scale the things that are working well. LinkedIn ads can be expensive, so if you're not selling expensive products, it might not be the platform for you. Optimize your targeting, so use the demographics after the campaign has been running for a few days to optimize your targeting. One campaign we ran recently was having a lot of budget taken up by just a few enterprise companies. So we removed them from our targeting so that the budget could be more evenly spread out. So keep your eye on the demographics, make sure you're hitting the companies and the people that you want to hit. Test your creatives. We're very fortunate to have Sarah in-house who can put together very nice and very eye-catching creatives very quickly. Run your A/B test so you can see which creatives drive the most results, and most importantly, be patient. Like with anything we ever talk about, SEO, content marketing, blogging, etc., these strategies require a bit of patience and attention. Don't set and forget. Optimize as often as you can, and keep your creatives fresh, and you'll see much better results. So that's it from me. Just one little thing is that paid social tends to work best when you have an effective organic strategy. So integrating what Frankie and Sarah were saying earlier will put you in a much stronger position overall to make an impact, a positive impact on social media overall. Now we are running a little short on time, so I did mention about the free t-shirts at the beginning. If you'd like a free t-shirt, all you have to do is complete the survey that will appear on your screen when you leave the webinar today, and just share your delivery address, and we'll send you and your t-shirt size, and we'll send you a t-shirt over the next couple of weeks. So that will appear on your screen when you leave the webinar today. Very quickly, a few key takeaways from what we've all been saying. So You're probably sitting on a lot of content that can be repurposed for social media. So go through your archives, see what you've got, see how you can repurpose that. Content on LinkedIn works best when it comes from people rather than companies. So think about a strategy and the KPIs and have KPIs in place to do this effectively. And if you're using LinkedIn ads, review your strategy, think about how you're targeting your audience and the creative that you're using at the moment. Very quickly, before we do some more Q&A, we do have an offer at the moment for social media content creation. So if you are interested in us taking your Big Rock content and repurposing it, if you need a quick turnaround on these things, so if you have podcasts, webinars, interviews, we can turn that into very nice sort of snippets that can be used on social. So all you have to do is click on express interest, and we'll get back to you over the next couple of days, and we can have a chat about it and take it from there.
Nice one, Danny. A few more questions are coming in, so I think, I appreciate we're at the top of the hour, but really quickly, Marcy has said, how would you recommend dividing the content between posting on the company page and your personal page? I think you get far more response from personal individuals. Companies, LinkedIn can charge money to companies, it can charge advertising, whereas I suppose the product is, you are the product. The 750 million industry professionals are the product, but it has to generate engagement organically from people. So yeah, the way we see it is our individual personal brands generate far more engagement than the company. But then equally, we can't reach the individual niche target markets from our personal brands. We have to use the paid social and LinkedIn advertising, which ties into, there was another question actually from distinctive sectors from Brenda. So if you have distinctive sectors or areas of business, do you recommend having a targeted social presence, e.g. all the brands, or is it better to build on a single brand? I'd say go niche, go super niche, because that means your creative can be really niche. We've run a campaign recently to life science marketing managers. You can do it to life science scientists, but it meant that we were able to be really, really specific with showcasing our audience, because we've got a fantastic life science audience, and it meant that Sarah was able to create like adverts that really did hone in on that pain point and finding your life science audience. So I'd say the targeting capabilities are there, so use them. We do it for matched audiences. We actually do a lot of the targeting in the CRM, so categorizing and bucketing clients into specific sectors. Sue's also talked about company name. Using company name for matching is sort of dangerous in life sciences because we have a lot of universities as companies. So there are many departments within a university setting, so huge universities, and yeah, only with better targeting can you reach a relevant audience. Danny, what would you say to that?
Yeah, so that's when the extra sort of level of targeting would come in. So I think Sue's saying, so yeah, if you have your universities as your company name list, and then within the sort of job functions, you've got your specific jobs you want to target. I think she's just clarified now. You don't have permission from our company to use.
No, I think that's from a separate one. But
so you can just add extra layers of targeting. So if we're going for all the universities, but within that university we only want to target certain departments, we can target, so it includes that. But if there's a specific department in the university you're talking about, we can perhaps chat about that.
Or there's email. You can match on email as well, direct email. So, but obviously you've got to have their email and their permission to share it as well. So that's a different way of doing it. Who else have we got? In STEM companies from Giorgio, often is the case that non-marketing individuals are afraid to include sort of general audience content. Instead, they'll favor stuff that's more sort of high-level content. They're worried about appearing too generalist, I suppose. How do you communicate that content that serves a general audience is useful too, and does not lessen the brand / make them sound less intelligent? I think there's always time for different types of content. Like what is viscosity or what is rheology was one that did really well for one of our clients, and it generated tens of thousands of page views a day on it. but equally, how does viscosity affect, or how does temperature affect viscosity in motor oil, or in in changing conditions? There's different stages of the funnel. Like it's if you're top of funnel and you want to capture a lot of research students or a lot of high school students, or there's a general area where you can capture a lot of people. You're ultimately looking to find the more qualified people by taking them on a content journey. So you've got to cast your net quite far and wide, and ultimately try and lead them on a content journey to something that can help them. So for holiday posts specific to when the holiday runs on the weekend, do you recommend posting prior to the weekend for maximum exposure, or keeping it to the day of the holiday on the weekend? Sada?
I'd say on the weekend. It's a holiday, even if it's LinkedIn. Even I do on my free time, I just browse on my social media. So if you post that on the specific weekend of holiday, there's more chance that people are gonna be seeing it, and hence you're gonna be top of mind even outside of work hours. And I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah. And what about on the World Days? I know that you've often got sort of like 3 or 4 posts ready to go for a World Day. Don't you sometimes post beforehand as well? Because
it is a good idea to lead and then to
build up,
to tail off. Yeah. But if you only have time for one, just do it on the day. If you can afford to create a couple, it's always good to lead up to that, just to grab any extra attention. But the biggest attention you're going to have on the day.
Yeah. Okay, and last one. So we've got to the end of the questions from Shirley. Any thoughts on employees who are reluctant to do too much company posting because LinkedIn is their personal platform? Danny, any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess that's like there's got to be sort of a two-way play there, hasn't it? Because if bosses and senior directors are expecting you to use your personal profile, which does belong to you, then they have to be willing to give you the time to create the content, which is what we do. We have time allocated to create the content. So if they're reluctant, I just highlight the benefits. If the company's doing well, in most cases, that means individuals are doing well within that company. And it does work. It's if you can get everyone on the same page and all singing from the same hymn sheet, then there are benefits. So I guess highlighting the benefits, like we were saying before about the sales team.
Yeah, I mean, tie it back to what their goals and their KPIs are. If you can make it a KPI, then that sort of take care of that. All right, I think we're at the end now. So if please do check out the handouts, or look at the social media content creation offer if you're interested in that. Danny, anything you want to wrap up with?
No, just a reminder to take the survey, which will be on the screen. If you want your free T-shirt, then you just need to let us know your delivery address and your T-shirt size, and we'll send that out in the next couple of days, or next couple of weeks maybe. And that's it. Yeah, all
Brilliant.
good from us. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.